Hi everyone. Thanks for joining the office hours for today. I've had some discussion with a few of our members. Some of them are community members that came from our newsletter and chat. And I've got some questions from our paid members as well. So I want to quickly summarize with you what we've gone through. I think this will be interesting for you to consider. So a lot of times in Google News, there's issues around non-English language sites and how to go about optimizing them, whether it might be Cyrillic, Arabic, basically non-English sites. You'd see a lot of the times that they will use, this is a website that we went through just now. It's like a free radio news publication talking about human rights. You can also see here that this is RT, which is a very well-known news channel. And you can see how they're using Latin or English letters in terms of translating the language. And basically, this would be the recommendation to use when you're trying to optimize for non-English, because except for Arabic, and I'll say why. It's much harder for Google to, whenever they try to render the URLs in search, it's hard for them to pick them up. So that's why a lot of the sites would use this. But even for like Indian languages as well, a lot of sites use the English letters to do that. But Arabic, I would only consider to use English within the words if you want to target communities that speak that language but are in the diaspora. So that way you can rank in like the likes of Google US search results that also have Arabic speakers. That would be the way that you would potentially combine English and Arabic in there. Now, when you're considering the URL structure of such sites, increasingly the actual URL structure itself isn't important, except just making very clear what that page level URL is about. So in this case, if it's 666 and you're trying to index and rank for a category page, then it's not going to help you to optimize and rank for that page. But having this name in itself, that's fine. And if you just have, like, for example, news/article name, and make sure that includes the keyword target in that, the trigger top stories and your Google News results, and that's ultimately what's going to help. What's more important is the actual structure and placement of the article and the links across the website. So if we go to like rt.com and you see the fact that there's the hierarchy, if you see that there's the fact that the tags there, related links or popular links, even on this website as well, they've very smartly done this, a very well optimized page. So for example, they'll link back to the category level. They can also have a link back to the home as well in the breadcrumb to show the hierarchy. They've got editors' picks. It's all tagged because it's in Russia, the category. They've shown the top trending articles there. They're showing the latest news articles for that category as well, which is helpful. But what's also important is to show the related articles to this story. And that's what's going to help you build up your news topic clusters for a particular story, especially if it's an ongoing series, and potentially trigger news results for that. So because this site is custom made, they can potentially add like related articles, links at the bottom of the article, and better utilize as well internal links within the article. They can potentially write, for example, the fact that this was, as reported earlier, the fact that this happened is the reason why this event happened, for example. So those are the things that you can consider in order to pick up on some issues. Now, I had some other questions from our pay members. So Doug, this one's for you. Thank you for joining and becoming a member last month. You had some questions around what are some of the issues to resolve when looking at, so when there's competitors that outrank you in Google News, what are some of the things you can do, right? Something that you can do right now that's going to actually give you the better competitive advantage. If you're on WordPress, check out this service called wordproof.com. I'm just starting to experiment with this. I'll report back to you guys on how this looks like. But what this is actually doing is it's actually a schema that actually gives timestamps to your articles. It'll tell you the copyrights as well. And if anyone attempts to copy your content, they're actually going to attribute back to you guys automatically. The thing that you have to do in those situations is you have to try to get them to link back to you to make sure that you are credited as the original article, as the original source. And that's what's going to give you, help you to outrank those competitors. Now, some sites are big sites and you can't get around them, and sometimes they might outrank you even though they're original. So the first thing you can do is future-proof yourself by adding this schema. And you can see like it will add like a copyright infringement, it will add timestamping, it will add watermarks, and eventually once these articles become more available in blockchain, then that's going to also future-proof you on that as well. The second thing you can do is if they've published maybe a couple of hours later than you, and there's been new developments on that story, then just continue to add on top of that and a follow-up aspect of that story. That can help you as well to better rank. And the other thing you can do is, like I said to you guys, is try to reach out to them, see if they can link back to you as an original source. Don't be afraid to do that. Or you can just reach out for copyright infringement, DMCA, copyright. So Doug, what essentially you can do also, this is the strictest case, right? You can follow this article, photoclaim.com, how to submit a DCMA takedown notice. You go to support legal. I was just on there anyways. Create a request, and then that would go to the Lumens database. And basically, a notification should show up in their Google Search Console for that copyright infringement. Now, what will happen over time is the more requests that have been made for that particular publisher, Google will typically demote them on the search results. Obviously, we don't want to be, I don't know, it depends on how illegitimate they are, but obviously I wouldn't want to be a bad neighbor to another publisher that's probably covering the same story, and everyone's trying to make revenue. But obviously, if they're taking away from your IP, definitely try to go through and report your content from that as well, and try to do the best from that. Take this as his last resort, basically. So I hope that one helps, Doug. So there's 2 more questions on improving Google News performance, and then I have final tips, and then we'll call it a day for office hours. Another question from Doug saying, how do you make sure that we don't, they want to re-verify their profile in Google News Publisher Center? Maybe you're a legacy publisher that's been indexed from the original process and you haven't claimed your profile in News Publisher Center. If I reply again, does that impact your potential reindexation on search? Well, no. The answer is no. And that's because their algorithm will be picking up the content in search, and it will continue to do that. So that's not going to interrupt your indexation process. What you want to make sure you claim your listing, because ultimately you can then make a lot more clearer as to what kind of content is going to be prioritized for them, Google to pick up. So I'll give a dummy project example. We want to make sure that, for example, we've got the latest news feeds that are showing up in the article, that you've got your proper information track put in place, the proper categories, all these things. Ultimately, if you build up your list of subscribers in Google News Publisher Center, it will influence the amount of users that can get picked up in Google Discover as well. And particularly if you're covering trending topics and you've got the right categories there, it can potentially trigger Google Discover as well. So I encourage you to submit your profile to Google Publisher Center to control that, to better track things. And that way you can, like I said, influence what will get surfaced more quickly. And in terms of tools for Google News on WordPress backend, there's a press checklist. I'll send you guys the link in the recording in members only access. But basically, there's a press checklist where you can add conditions on whether or not you can, based on particular criteria, it won't go live unless there's particular criteria that's met. So for example, if Yoast SEO keyword scores are green or not, then if it's not green, then it won't go live. If you're not hitting certain word counts but particular topic content taxonomies, then it won't go live. Those type of things, from a process level point of view, it's very useful to utilize plugins like Yoast in the back end. But to help you with your optimization and your overall content strategy, definitely use tools like Surfer or Market Muse or ClearScope, depending on which one you prefer. For many of our small to medium publishers, we opt in for Surfer SEO because that makes it a lot more easy and scalable for them to produce better optimized evergreen content. There's also Ahrefs that we use for top story tracking. There's there's News Dashboard for news top story ranking and tracking. There's now the Google News Discover API and the News API from Search Console that's available that many publishers are tracking as well. I'll just show you the article. So Woolman Tobias from Europe, he's already created like Python scripts and JavaScript scripts that we still want to try it out as well. We're still trying it out at the moment, and you can use this to track, particularly for Discover, like the number, which categories are most popular for your website, to then reverse engineer and see how to produce similar content for Discover and improve your overall CTR. And that's what I'd encourage you guys to do. Ultimately, try to use your own spreadsheets and tools to do this, or you can use also for CTR testing, SEOtesting.com. That's one that we also use as well. Okay, so the final topic that I want to go through with you guys today on Google News SEO optimization, it's something that we're really honing in with our small to medium-sized publishers in making sure that they, one of the Google News ranking factors is about speed. It's about how you publish things in a timely manner. It was covered in the recent Google News SEO conference as well from Christina Liang, because that's very important. And she spoke about how it's better off to even write like an extra snippet of information. They write like 150 to 200 words of content to get that indexed, and then they follow up with covering the full story. Definitely encourage that. The other thing that we typically do as well is often leverage trends. There's two ways to leverage trends to get that better utilized. And it's also about how to leverage evergreen content as well within the Google News trends. So that way you can get that evergreen article initially spiked up, get the traffic from news, and then leverage that as a syndication method to also get links and eventually allow that to sustainably rank for you guys over time. So, and then also determining your news class and strategies. So let's go through an example. One of our clients, not to give names, we look at the past day, we look at Google Trends itself within the past 24 hours to determine which of the cryptos are performing well. And, they would write a news article about that being a top performing news article as part of the roundup for the afternoon of top performing cryptos. But we also determined as an insight that much of the evergreen as well is coming from price prediction related cryptocurrencies. So a lot of the keyword research for many of those cryptocurrencies only show the more of the established ones. But essentially we'll make sure that we get price prediction for that cryptocurrency covered, like what is that cryptocurrency, the history of the performance, what analysts say, what the future of that looks like across the various years, 2022 to 2025, for example, and then publish that as an evergreen guide. So many times as well, we look at the trending articles and try to refresh that and bring that to the front page again with the updated dates to make sure that we also leverage that in Google News if they're a Google News approved publisher. And that way you can get both trending articles, top story triggering for both evergreen and for that particular news roundup. Sometimes as well, you would also see like if you do a particular cryptocurrency, for example, as well, you can then understand what people are searching for that particular currency. So cryptocurrency. So for example, people are looking for particular questions, or those cases where people were looking for, it should be in a price, or should be in a go up. There's those type of things. Buy should be in a, those type of top trending searches. You can go through more detail and get and identify the insights for those. So that's one way you can pick up and leverage trending searches for a particular cluster of news and try to figure that way as well. The other thing you can look at is also trending searches as well. So look at the particular country that you're trying to focus on, go to real-time trending searches, and then you can go to a particular category. So you can check what top searches are. You can have a quick look and see if there's any particular ones that might be coming up. So metaverse, news announcement from Microsoft, put your own spin on it. And you can even click on the real-time trending searches and see whether or not any of the if there's any particular keyword clusters that you can focus on, niche clusters you can focus on. So for example, once you cover Microsoft Corporation Metaverse as a subject, you can then also go through and pick up on Microsoft stocks, maybe talk about the fact that they've jumped up as a result of, Microsoft stocks have jumped up as a result of the metaverse trends, and link back to that metaverse trends as a pillar news article, etc., etc. About Loop, is about Ignite. You can create very clusters about that and link back to the main story about the fact that they've gone into the metaverse. So that's one way you can do it. The other way you can do it is and go directly hard for that particular top stories. And so just go hard for the top stories and try to find various meta trends and stuff you can cover. You can also go on a category level and also just try to pick up a business or try to find finance or the relevant subcategory to make it more easier for you to pick up on the individual sector story that you're trying to cover. That's one of the things that we've been doing. And without that, like leverage your evergreen's content, refresh that to bring it to the front page if it's particularly a trending, if it's an overarching theme to leverage on that. So with that, thank you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next office hours and speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us at the office hours. Watch past and upcoming episodes on our YouTube channel and website with detailed notes. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and join our community groups. Finally, visit stateofdigitalpublishing.com for premium information, resources, and become a member today. Until the next time.